Welcome to Animal Dialects. You've seen thousands of birds in your life, in your yard, at the park, on the sidewalk, or nesting in the trees. But think about this for a second. You've probably never actually seen a dead bird. Not lying in the grass, not on a branch, not anywhere. It's a strange thought, isn't it? Because statistically, birds die every single day, by the millions. Whether it's disease, old age, or accidents, the mortality rate in the wild is extraordinarily high. In fact, for every cardinal you saw at your feeder this morning, half of its siblings from last year are likely already gone. North America alone is home to over 7 billion birds, and nearly half of them die every single year. That's up to 4.5 billion bodies disappearing annually. If even a tiny fraction of those remained visible for just a few hours, our streets and parks would be covered in them. But they aren't.
So, where are the bodies? This isn't just a small mystery, it's one of the most common questions in ornithology, and the answer is far more specific and far stranger than you realize. Today, we're going deep into the final minutes of a bird's life to find out exactly where they go. And if you stay until the end, we'll reveal a recently documented behavior that suggests some species possess something remarkably close to an actual awareness of death. Stick around, because what you're about to learn will change the way you look at the world every time you step outside.
To understand why our world isn't a graveyard for billions of birds, we have to look at the first and most straightforward reason. Birds don't die where you're looking. When a bird is sick, injured, or reaching the final stages of life, its behavior changes in a very specific, instinctive way. Research on avian behavior during terminal illnesses, like West Nile virus or avian influenza, shows that these birds become lethargic and disoriented. But most importantly, they seek cover. While a healthy bird operates in open spaces where it can spot predators and escape quickly, a bird that knows it is compromised will retreat. It finds the densest cover possible: thick underbrush, the interior of a shrub, tall grass, or the base of a hedgerow. This isn't a conscious human-like strategy. It's an instinctive threat response. A bird that cannot fly well or react quickly hides to avoid being eaten in its final hours, and that same hiding spot becomes the place that conceals its body after death.
This is why you rarely see them in the open. They aren't dying in the open. They are dying in the places you don't look and the dense vegetation you walk past every day without a second glance. If you were to push aside the branches of every overgrown shrub in your neighborhood, you would find those missing bodies. But since no one does that, they remain hidden from view. But concealment is only half the story. Even when a bird does die in a visible spot, like a driveway or a lawn, they disappear with a speed that is almost hard to believe. Research on scavenger efficiency shows that in areas with active scavenger populations, a small bird carcass usually remains visible for only 30 minutes to 4 hours. If a bird dies overnight, which is common because their metabolism often fails to sustain their body temperature in the dark, the body is usually gone before you even wake up for your morning coffee.
And the cleanup crew responsible for this isn't just what you'd expect. While we might think of vultures, the reality is much smaller and more common. In warm weather, ants, beetles, and flies begin working on a carcass within minutes, and they can strip the soft tissue in just a few hours. However, the most efficient removers are the vertebrate scavengers we see every day. Domestic cats, for instance, are incredibly effective at removing bird carcasses in suburban areas. They don't just kill live birds, they are opportunistic scavengers who patrol their territories at night. A cat finding a dead bird at 3 a.m. will remove it, and you'll never even know it was there. From raccoons, opossums, and foxes to highly intelligent crows and even squirrels looking for protein in the winter, the scavenger network is so fast that researchers often have to check their study sites multiple times a day just to document a death before the evidence vanishes. When you combine this rapid scavenging with the bird's natural instinct to hide, the statistical probability of you stumbling across a dead bird becomes almost zero.
But there's a third part to this mystery that's a bit more unsettling.
Some birds don't leave bodies because they are consumed before they even have a chance to die of natural causes. Predation is one of the leading causes of death in the wild, and by its very nature, it doesn't leave a visible carcass behind for you to find. Think about how a hawk operates. If a sharp-shinned hawk snatches a chickadee mid-flight, there is no body left on the ground. The hawk carries its meal to a secluded perch, consumes it, and drops the indigestible parts like bones and feathers in a location far away from your walking path. Even if a hawk takes a dove right at your bird feeder, you might see an explosion of feathers, but by the time you run outside, both the hawk and the dove are gone. Within an hour, those few remaining feathers either blow away or are picked up by other birds to line their nests. The evidence of the death disappears almost as fast as the event itself.
Owls are even more efficient ghosts of the night. A great horned owl can take a sleeping bird from its roost in total darkness. They often consume the bird whole and later regurgitate a small pellet containing the remains miles away from where the kill actually happened. Unless you're an expert looking for those specific pellets under a distant tree, you'd walk right past the only evidence that the bird ever existed. Mammals like foxes, weasels, and cats do the exact same thing. They take the bird and consume it elsewhere, effectively cleaning the crime scene before you ever arrive. When you combine all these factors, the dying bird's instinct to hide in dense cover, the lightning-fast efficiency of scavengers, and predators that carry their meals away, the statistical chance of you seeing a dead bird drops to nearly zero. You would have to be in the exact right place at the exact right time, in that tiny window between the moment of death and the moment a scavenger arrives. That combination is incredibly rare, which is why your feeling that you never see dead birds is actually 100% accurate. It's not because they aren't dying, it's because every single process in the ecosystem is optimized to remove the evidence immediately.
But now, we have to talk about the part of this question that gets a little more uncomfortable. It's the question of whether birds actually understand what is happening to them. For a long time, scientists assumed birds didn't have the brain power to understand mortality. But research over the last 15 years is starting to prove that assumption wrong, especially when it comes to the Einstein family of birds, the corvids. In 2015, researchers at the University of Washington discovered something that truly challenges everything we thought we knew about animal psychology. When crows encounter a dead member of their own species, they don't just ignore it or fly away. Instead, they gather. Sometimes dozens of crows will descend upon the site in a behavior known as mobbing. They circle the body, land nearby, and call out loudly, staying in the area for 15 to 20 minutes or even longer. This isn't just a random reaction to a threat. It's a specific, consistent response to the presence of death itself. What's even more fascinating is how this experience changes their future behavior. These crows actually learn from the sight of the death. Researchers found that crows who participated in these gatherings would avoid that specific location for weeks afterward, even if it was right in the middle of their territory and filled with easy food. To the crows, a dead body serves as a powerful signal that the space is dangerous, leading them to update their entire threat assessment of the area. And it's not just crows. Magpies have been observed performing actions that look remarkably like a burial, such as bringing blades of grass to cover the body of a fallen companion, a behavior that has no clear survival benefit, but seems to point towards something deeper. Western scrub jays have been seen stopping their food gathering entirely to sound alarm calls when they find a dead jay nearby. Whether we should call these rituals funerals or grief is something scientists are still very careful about, as those are deeply human emotions. However, it is undeniable that these birds are not just ignoring the end of a life. They are responding with socially coordinated and complex behaviors. While small songbirds like robins or cardinals might not hold large group gatherings, there are many reports of them staying by a dead mate for hours, calling out in what looks like distress.
Whether it's a cognitive choice or a social instinct,
It's clear that death isn't just a disappearance to these animals. It's an event that they notice, process, and remember. This bridge between biological survival and emotional recognition is the final piece of the puzzle in understanding the secret lives and deaths of the birds in our own backyards. So here is what you should take away from all of this. The absence of dead birds in your daily life is not an accident. It is the result of a perfectly timed, overlapping set of evolutionary strategies. It starts with predator avoidance that drives a dying bird into the deepest concealment it can find. It continues with an incredibly efficient scavenger network that can remove an exposed carcass in just a few hours. And finally, it involves predation itself, where birds are consumed before a body can even reach the ground. The question of where dead birds go actually has a very specific, observable answer. They go into dense cover. They go into the stomachs of scavengers. They are processed by insects, bacteria, and the same natural decomposition systems that handle every living organism on this planet. They disappear not because of a mystery, but because of ecology.
And yet, for certain species, we've learned that there is something more happening. A recognition, a response, and a memory. For them, death is not just a sudden absence, but a presence that they notice and gather around. The next time you walk through your yard and wonder why the world feels so clean of death, you'll know why. They are there. They have always been there. You're just not looking in the right places at the right times. And the natural systems designed to remove them are simply faster than your ability to notice. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever stumbled across a dead bird in a place you didn't expect? What species was it, and where was it hidden? Tell me your story in the comments. I read every single one of them. Thanks for watching Animal Dialects, and I'll see you in the next one.